Hey everybody, we're back with Game 2 of the Game Matrix Pokemon TCG Championship Finals with Ross Cawthon versus Zane Nelson. And right away, Zane's going to Mulligan. And assuming Zane lost that game, he's most likely going to choose to go first because there's no reason to go second. Ross starts with 3 Pokemon, so he's sitting pretty right now. And he gets another extra card because Zane has to Mulligan. So I guess we'll see what happens. So yeah, this time around, maybe Zane will pull off the early Kyurem. If he does, and I'm pretty sure he'll most definitely win. But if Ross manages to set up again, then I don't see this working out for Zane. So he gets a Kyurem. Ross gets the Doduo, the Gothita, and the Cleffa, which is pretty solid. He gets the Water Energy, which is great because he wants to set up that turn 2 Kyurem if he wants to stand a chance. He goes straight away for, I'm assuming, a Pont. Can't see from the glare, but yeah, it has to be Pont because he's shuffling his hand into his deck, and Ross isn't shuffling his hand into his deck, so it can't be N. And at this point, Zane obviously wants to get a Voltorb. There's not really anything else he needs to get on the board right now. That's a problem with cake players. They sometimes put all their basics on the bench, but you don't want to be you don't want to play stuff down you don't want to. Even though this deck doesn't run catcher, other decks run catcher, so they can catcher up like your Terrakion or something, and it'll be stuck up in the active position if you don't have a switch or a Shaman to move the energy to it or something like that. So yeah, obviously he wants the Electrode, so he Pokemon Communication for a Voltorb, and I didn't really catch what he put in, but I don't think it's going to matter. And then he passes it over to Ross. At this point, Ross obviously wants to try and get his Gothitelle set up, which is the point of the deck, is to lock his opponent down. And then once again, he wants to try and get quick Solostoses out so they don't die to turn 2 Glaciate. Regardless, even if Ross can get Solosis out this turn, if Zane can turn 2 Glaciate, those Solostoses aren't even going to matter. So he goes for the Pont, so I'm assuming his hand was pretty bad. Just to go over what Ross's deck does. It's a regular Gothitelle deck, yes. Well, actually, no. It's Gothitelle, yes. But he runs some interesting techs. He runs the Dodrio so that he can retreat his Gothitelle for free, so he's not locked into place by Cobalion and such. He also runs, I'm not sure if he actually uses it in this matchup or the matchup against Polo, but he runs a 1/1 Octillery, which lets him snipe for 30 and then switch back into Gothitelle, and then with Dodrio he can retreat back into Octillery and potentially keep doing 30 and going back into Gothitelle every turn. He did that against me during one match, and I almost lost, but luckily we went to time, and I ended up pulling it off. But he goes for another Pont after dropping down a Gothita and a Snivy. So his bench is pretty much set up. He just needs to get a Solosis on the board. Or he actually, excuse me. So now Zane gets, no, he takes that back, I guess. Not really sure why. What else would he attach an energy to when he doesn't want to lose out on an energy attachment? He gets a Water, which is extremely lucky, and then he goes straight away for the Juniper for a new hand. That should help him out. That should help him out quite a bit because he wants to try and get that Electrode off. But Ross hasn't even played a Solosis out yet, so he still has time to try and set up a Kyurem. No reason to go reckless with a Electrode right this second. And he doesn't really need to prevent Ross from using Twins, so he really has no huge reason to use Electrode quite yet. Maybe get another basic out, so in case he gets more than 1 energy, he can have energy on multiple guys. Ross goes for that Charon again, just so he doesn't have to discard anything important. And at this point, I don't really know what Ross would do. His Clef is asleep, and I know he doesn't run Switch, so he can't really There's the Octillery right there, and Zane actually has to read it. When he dropped down Remoraid, I was really confused. So yeah, I read the Octillery, and that's not actually bad because Ross gets into a situation where he needs to grab prizes quickly. And to be honest, the first time I played him, when he didn't run Octillery, the only reason why I beat him was because I decked him out. The second game, it came out of prizes and it was close, but he wasn't able to Octillery me enough times to catch up on prizes, and I won in time. So yeah, I guess the Octillery helps to get prizes in those kind of situations because Ross's deck is pretty slow, actually really slow with setup. Another reason why I think he's upset with the 60 minutes top cut. I think Jason Klaczynski made a thread about it on PokeGym, and Ross definitely is a slower player, so I can see him wanting more time to think his moves out. What's even worse is last Saturday we had a 45-minute top cut, just spontaneously, and go figure 2 ZPST get into the top cut, or top 2. Which unfortunately we were not able to record from that cities because Tyler's camera went crazy. But I should be getting coverage of the cities this weekend if I decide to go. So he evolves into a Servine, goes for the Junk Arm to get back a Communication, and he gets a Tropical Beach, which is excellent, because now he can just beach and get a new hand, and now he doesn't really care if his Clef is asleep because he doesn't need to eek. He got a new hand, and his Clef has stayed asleep, so now he's not going to die to a Glaciate. And if he can get that Superior out next turn, then he can heal off some of that Glaciate damage as well. Zane plays down Cobalion, which is smart, because if he decides to Glaciate, he'll have another Pokemon to put his energy onto. He hard attaches to Kyurem, so that's fully set up, and then he goes for an Oak. So right here, I'm assuming he either wants to get a switch, so he can switch into Kyurem, or he wants to get an Electro so he can blow up, put energy on Cobalion, and then switch into his Kyurem so he can start spreading and hopefully overwhelm Ross before he can set up. There's not too much else to this matchup, really. If Zane can, overwhelm Ross with damage before he sets up, then he wins. Otherwise, if Ross gets his complete setup, there's next to no way that Zane can win, really. He goes for the Junk Arm. I'm assuming he wants to grab Communication, maybe, so he can get his Electrode, because I believe he played a Communication earlier. Yeah, that's exactly what he grabs. He goes for Communication, switches in that Kyurem that he almost discarded but decided against, and then he goes for the Electrode, which is perfect, because now he can Energy Might, hopefully get energy on the Cobalion. And something else to think about is if he can Glaciate a couple times, as long as Ross has a lot of damage on board and he can't move it around or heal it, he could just sweep the rest of Ross's board with Cobalion. So that's why Kyurem and Cobalion have such great synergy. Even if you can't kill all of their guys, you at least put them in a KO range for Cobalion. Not sure what happened there. That was weird. Not sure what happened. Don't think it's relevant. And does I guess Zane's saying he doesn't end his turn or something. I don't know what happened. But he does Energy Might, like I expected. He gets 4 energy, 3 rainbows in a fighting like a boss. That is such a great Energy Might. That's not even fair. He drops an Eviolite onto Kyurem, just because he wants to get those out before Ross sets up Gothitelle and he can no longer play them. Zane is looking really good right now. He's got 7 energy on board, 2 fully charged Pokemon that are ready to rumble, a Kyurem with an Eviolite, and Ross is still kind of struggling to set up. At this point, Ross really needs a Superior, I feel, so that he can get rid of that damage on his board. Otherwise, Zane will just spread 1 or 2 more times and his entire board's going to be gone. He goes for Collector, which I'm assuming he's going to grab A, Solosis maybe, and B, Pokemon that he can Communication in, because I noticed that he got a Communication last turn before he ended. However, I don't think he could play Solosis down anyway because, like I said before, he can Glaciate, and that's going to take out the Solosis. So Ross is in a pretty tough situation here. I guess the best thing he can really do is just try and set up a quick Cawthon and start attacking. And maybe the Superior will help to remove damage counters. He grabs the Solosis anyway. I'm not sure if he's grabbing that to communication it back in, or if he's actually grabbing that because he wants to play it on the board. But I don't think he can safely play that yet. He grabs a second one. Interesting. So if he was grabbing the first one in communication, I'm not sure why he would grab a second one. But not sure what else he would grab regardless. He grabs a Gothita. Yeah, I think he just grabbed those Pokemon to maybe thin his deck. And if he needs communication fodder, he'll have it. He has a pretty decent sized hand right now, so he can't really beach. He does communication, like I said. Swapping it, I don't really think it matters which one he swaps in. I don't think he wants to have 3 Gothitels out right now, and he can't really play Solosis, so none of those basics actually matter right now. He takes a while to think. He puts the Solosis back finally, and I'm assuming he's grabbing the Superior because that seems like the obvious play, but maybe not. Maybe he grabs Gothitelle. No, he grabs Superior, okay. Maybe, well, Superior removes 10 between turns. He can cure him spread once a turn for 30. So at this point it's basically like Zane doing 10 a turn, because between turns he removes 10 with Superior, and there's going to be 2 times that it's between turns before he can attack with Cure him again, so that Superior is going to help him drastically. It's going to make it much harder for Zane to, go with the spread technique to try and take out his board. I think he uses another collector to grab more basics he doesn't need, but I guess he wants to thin his deck out more so he can grab relevant crap. And he drops the Solosis down anyway. Not too sure why, unless he purposely wants Zane to grab a prize. He goes for Rare Candy and a Gothitelle. So now actually Ross is in a pretty decent position. He's got Gothitelle out and Superior out. Unfortunately, he's still not going to be able to set up that Reuniclus, but in the meantime he can charge up a Gothitelle maybe and just sit there with Superior and heal off as Zane goes for Glaciates. But so far I'm liking Zane's position right now because he's really not threatened right now, and he's preventing Ross from ever setting up a Reuniclus as long as that Kyurem's sitting there. So Ross has to get rid of that Kyurem somehow, or he's never setting up Reuniclus. So he passes, and I believe he gets Tails again. Uses Superior to heal off damage, and I guess he reads Superior. I don't know. Zane really doesn't need to do anything other than just Glaciate at this point. I guess it doesn't hurt him to get more energy on board. But he goes for Juniper, why not? Catcher doesn't really help him here, I guess, because he's spreading anyway. He gets a Kyurem and an energy, so now even if Ross can kill his first Kyurem, there's a good chance that Zane will have set up his second Kyurem, so that puts Ross in a pickle. Ross did not want to see a second Kyurem. He goes for another Glaciate, and that's going to take out 2 of his Pokemon. Unfortunately, he was not able to heal the Doduo in time, so that's officially gone for the rest of the game. And now Zane is ahead in prizes, and Ross can twin, so I guess that's the good thing about that, is he can twins. The bad thing is he's never playing a Dodrio for the rest of the game, because he only runs a 1-1, and as long as Kyurem's active, he can't play a Reuniclus. So I honestly don't know what Ross can do here. But Ross is an amazing player. I'm sure he'll be able to figure something out. He still runs a bunch of other funny things that might help him out in the end. And he goes for the twins. And I think in this situation he might just want to charge up a Gothitelle. Maybe even set up a second Gothitelle. I feel like the only thing that he can really do here is to try and charge up that Cawthon that has energy and try and go aggro to the Kyurem and then somehow kill the other Kyurem. I mean KO, excuse me. KO the other Kyurem, and once the Kyurems are gone, he can try and set up that Reuniclus and potentially still get a log off. But it's still just not looking that favorable for Ross right now. He twinses for his 2 cards. Takes a while. That's nothing new, but he finally chooses 2 cards. It looks like some sort of trainer or supporter. He drops down another Reuniclus, and oh, he plays a defender. That is sick. I didn't even think about that. That is, wow. That defender is gonna save his Solosis, so next turn he can potentially set up Reuniclus. I'm just amazed right now. I did not see that coming at all. I guess the one of defender tech is the play if you're expecting cake in your metagame, because now he can't take out Solosis. He goes for the Cawthon, pretty much fully charged. His Pokemon don't have very much damage on him anymore because the Superior is finally doing work. And also, when Zane does the 10 damage to the Solosis, Superior is just going to heal it off, so he's going to have a fully healthy Solosis after Zane goes for Glaciate, if that's what he chooses to do. Yeah, I'm still just, you know, that defender came out of left field. That is so sick. That gives Ross another chance, or a pretty good chance actually. Assuming he can set up the the Reuniclus next turn, I think Ross can make a pretty sick comeback here. But you do have to realize that so far a lot of time has gone by. It shows up as 17 minutes alone for this game, and I've sped it up quite a bit. So, factoring in the first game and how long this game has gone thus far, Ross needs to hurry up and grab prizes before he risks going to sudden death. However, Zane grabs 2 more prizes, and that really is not looking good for Ross, because even if he does set up, he needs to do it quickly, because if it comes to sudden death, there's no way for Ross to win at all. 0 chance, because he can't grab he can't become tied in prizes in 2 turns. He goes for another twins. That's perfect for him because he's gonna probably grab the rare candy and the Reuniclus to set that up. He can't set up Dodrio, so that's pretty unfortunate. But at this point, I guess he can try and continue to charge up that Cawthon. The only problem with that is if he does that, then once the Kyurem dies, or actually just whenever Zane chooses, he can bring up his Cobalion and Iron Breaker lock the Cawthon and never attacking again. So without that Dodrio, he's pretty boned. He does grab the communications for Reuniclus, which is pretty smart. And then he rare candies the Cawthon, and he plays an Alpha Lithograph, which I don't really understand, but I guess since he runs so many techs, he runs that card so that he can make sure he doesn't lose because of prizing something key, and at least he can grab that prize when he needs it. He obviously has his note sheet so he can write down his prizes, because ever since the Azelf Time Walk situation, they allow players to keep notes. Ross definitely takes advantage of the whole note thing, not only for Alpha Lithograph, but just for other calculations and stuff. I always see him writing on paper, which is pretty smart, you know. He also like does some sort of math, I think, with his notes to calculate his chances of pulling something off, which is pretty impressive that he can do that, like, on the spot. But I think it's helped him out a lot in some of his games. So he attaches another energy, so he's going for that approach to try and get a bunch of energy on Cawthon and hopefully sweep Zane at some point. But like I said, he could just bring up the Cobalion and Iron Breaker. But he goes for a Junk Arm and goes for the Catcher, which I'm thinking he's gonna... Oh, he catches a Clef, okay. I think this is actually not too bad because you can one-shot it, and I think Ross is starting to realize that it's coming close to sudden death. So Ross has to take as many prizes as he can quickly, otherwise he's in for some trouble. He did win the first game, so if it does come to time, that's what I meant, not sudden death. If it comes to time and Zane pulls it off, then they will have to go to sudden death. And I'm not sure how well Ross's deck is built for sudden death, since it's such a slow deck. But Zane also can't energy might in sudden death unless he just wants to say, "Oh, I concede." But that's one thing I never really liked about Cake. There's a lot of time, or a lot of games that reach time, and then when you get in sudden death, you're at a disadvantage because you can't use Electrode at all. I always thought it was funny that you could end you and your opponent during sudden death down to one card. Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. So he does go for the Iron Breaker. That is going to lock Cawthon in place, which is really bad for Ross. But he goes for the Super Rod to get back that Doduo, a Goth Theta, and an Energy. So he's not too bad off, because now he can collector those Pokemon he just Super Rodded and set up that Dodrio. If he sets up that Dodrio and another Gothitelle, like I said before, he can switch between Gothitelles and he won't get locked by the Cobalion. So that was a pretty cool play right there, going for the Super Rod and Collector combo to get back his Doduo and two Gothoritas. But for now, I think they're just going to be there for damage placement. I think someone moves the discard pile and deck in so that you can see it on camera better. And at this point, Ross is just going to beach because he can't attack. He's going to heal off some damage from Superior. And this game is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. If he gets a Dodrio out and another Gothitelle, and yeah, he can pull this off, because then he can keep retreating and attacking until he can start taking out some of Zane's Pokemon. And if it does come to time, then we'll get to a point where Ross might have caught up on prizes, and if he has a fully charged Gothitelle, gets to a point where he can one-shot Zane's Pokemon, and Zane won't be able to one-shot his Gothitelle, so Ross can potentially win. And then after that, the Superior pretty much made it so there's pretty much no damage on board right now. He does have Reinoclus, so he can move the damage off Gothitelle. He plays the Gothita, or Gothorita, and attach an energy, I believe. He is going to Junk Arm for, I'm assuming, probably a communication. Yeah, communication to try and get that Dodrio probably, so he can start switching for free, like I said before. And at this point, Ross still can't really do too much because he doesn't have another Gothitelle set up yet. I don't know what Gothorita's first attack is, so I don't know if it'd be relevant at all. So I don't know if he'd want to switch into it yet. So I think he's just going to move the damage onto his bench Pokemon and pass, since he can't do anything yet. And that's going to... or he moved the damage onto all of his Pokemon so he can heal it off with Superior. And I think it's at time now, because the judge starts pointing out the prize cards, which is pretty bad for Ross. I don't know what they're doing here, but oh, he thought he was hiding a prize or something behind the Dodrio. I remember that. But Zane likes to say his moves out loud sometimes, so I think he was thinking out loud there with the Gothitelle. He attached an energy to the Kyurem and passes, or he goes for Iron Breaker, and then now there's no damage on board, or no damage on his bench Pokemon because of Superior. He moves the damage off. He uses Dodrio to free retreat into his other Gothitelle. So many Goths. And then he's able to heal off the damage with Superior. At this point, Ross is close to setting up, like I said before, being able to switch between Gothitelles and attack, but he still needs more energy on the current active Gothitelle for that to work. And time is not on his side as well, so I don't know. He has a fully charged Cobalion on the bench. a fully charged Cobalion active, a close to fully charged Kyurem on the bench, and a fully charged Kyurem that he just brought active. So I don't see Zane not winning here, to be honest. But like I said, Ross is going to go for that switch between Gothitelle thing. None of his Gothitelles are ever going to die. He's just going to keep doing damage to Zane's board. Zane doesn't run anything to heal, so that is, depending on the time situation, Ross can still pull this game off. I'm not sure why he switches into Kyurem, because he, like, with Superiority, he's doing 10 damage to his bench a turn, essentially, which is not going to do squat, especially when we can move the damage off of them with Reuniclus to another Pokemon. But I'm guessing he wants to try an Outrage or something. I think maybe he brought up the Kyurem as bait so that he could Outrage, or force Ross to attack into Kyurem so he can Outrage him back, is what I meant. But he switches again into Cobalion, and then goes for the Iron Breaker again, and he's going to move the damage onto his bench Pokemon again so he can heal it off his Superior, and also not put his Gothitelle into KO range. Switches into the other Gothitelle. He still can't attack with that one yet because he has no energy, so he's really just forced to pass. But he's getting somewhere at least, fortunately for Ross. But Zane can still sit pretty, because if they go to time, he can be rest assured that he'll most likely win, unless Ross can somehow kill a Pokemon during both of his turns in the time turns. So all Zane really has to do is make sure none of his Pokemon die, and Ross just has to make sure he can set up 2 fully charged Gothitelles and switch between them despite Iron Breaker. So, like, without the audio, it's kind of hard to tell when they go to time, but I will tell you right now that they do end up going to time. I'm just not sure when. They might have already gone to time. So he switches into the other one. He starts playing really fast, which makes me feel that it hasn't quite reached time yet. Ross tends to start playing much faster when he has time constraints like this, or time pressure. He goes for, I'm assuming, an Oak, or Zane goes for an Oak, and he's going to try and grab a fresh new hand. He's going to have to retreat into the other Cobalion, because if he leaves it active, he's giving Ross a prize, and that's going to be bad for him if they end up reaching time, since based on how much time they've been playing thus far, it's got to be close to time at this point. And even though the whole time situation's stupid, sometimes a player just has to use that to their advantage. Hopefully we will someday get 75-minute top cut rounds like the Florida Marathon was able to pull off. Right now, I guess our TOs just want to, go home. They don't really care about giving us a great top cut, and they just want to do the bare minimum. So he moves damage onto his bench Pokemon so he can heal it off his Superior. And at this point, Zane left his Cobalion active, so I think Ross might be able to KO the active Cobalion with his Gothitelle, which is not good for Zane. But actually, he doesn't KO the Cobalion. I'm guessing he's got I'm guessing he's got like 4 special metals on it or something. Because yeah, he didn't kill the Cobalion, which is amazing for Zane, because now he can retreat here and go into his other Cobalion. But he goes for a collector, because now he can shaman the special metals to the other Cobalion, put energy on his active Cobalion so he can retreat, and then retreat into the other Cobalion that has no damage on it, and then sit there pretty with special metals on him. However, he decides to attack into it without retreating. I'm not sure if I would have done that. I probably would have retreated. He doesn't want to give Ross prizes here, because if he gives Ross any prizes at this point, he could risk losing the game, because if Ross can get to a point where he can one-shot Zane's Pokemon, then it might be game over. He retreats again and heals off the damage, and I'm not really sure what happened there, but they're picking up their cards, so I think Zane won that in time. So now we're going to sudden deaths. Catch you guys later for sudden death.